Hi, this is Pamela Slim from Escape from Cubicle Nation, and I wanted to do a little special segment on video with Ramit Sethi, who you were reading about today with his really wise advice about pricing. And it has to do in particular with an approach that both of us have found really successful actually as consumers of initially free services that were offered to us that then parlayed into work that we paid for. So this is a particular strategy that could be really useful for some of you who may not have a big body of work yet when you're just starting your business. So Ramit, do you want to share a couple examples?
Yeah, I love free work, and I've done a lot of free work. I continue to do free work, and people now approach me to do free work. And if they're good, I've taken a lot of people and ended up paying them quite consistently along the way. So I'll just tell you 3 quick stories about people who have done free work and how they did it. The first was a guy named Matt, and he actually approached me during my book launch. I was really busy, and he said, "Hey, I want to help you do something." And I said, "Well, the one thing I'm working on is my community site. Can you come up with a proposal by tomorrow?" And I made that barrier a little steep. He came back with a 7-page single-space proposal of a community site that was better than anything I could have done. And I looked at it and I was blown away. And he said, "I'll do it for free." I threw him the work. He did an amazing job. And now he's working with me. He runs product launches for I Will Teach You to Be Rich. So that's one. He did an amazing job. The second is a young woman named Susan, who's a friend of mine. And she just started helping me out with random advertising tasks. Then we realized that she was really good at writing and really good at all these other things. And she burrowed her way into I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And now she's doing extremely high-level work, strategic work on different products. So she's an amazing person too. And she basically just started off as the janitor, you know, just doing odd jobs, and has moved her way right up. The final person is a guy named Charlie Hone. Now, he's an interesting guy. He's a young guy right out of college. He decided to just do free work. He approached me saying, "Hey, I want an introduction to Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Workweek." And I said, "Well, before I introduce you to Tim, why don't you do a little bit of work with me?" He ended up doing an amazing job helping me with my book launch. He then worked with Tim, is helping Tim out with a number of things. He's also worked for Tucker Max. And I saved him for last because he actually wrote an entire ebook called The Recession-Proof Graduate, which I know you've mentioned before.
I have.
Pam. And he wrote about how doing free work is the new way of getting your dream job. So we can probably put a link to that, and I think people will hopefully get a lot of examples and insight from his ebook.
That's great. That's actually part of what inspired me to talk about this in this video, because I thought it was such a good example. Well,
Yeah.
and there's also somebody we know in common, Jana, who I think initially approached you to do some writing work, and then you introduced her to me. And then she ended up doing some writing work. Actually, she never really did it for free. I had an opportunity to be contributing some articles to a site that didn't have to be totally new. They just needed to be edited and shifted a little bit. And so she went through, which would have taken me hours and hours worth of time, edited it, and then we ended up just splitting the money for those articles.
Well, that's a perfect example of someone who did free work. She did free work for me. I ended up paying her. I now pay her consistently. And because I know that she's good, when I found out that you were looking for someone, I could recommend her to you, and you trust me, so you knew I'd already gone through all the filtering process. So if you can do free work for the right people, especially busy people know other busy people. So you can build your business not just with that one person, but expand out into their entire social network.
And that's what I've seen with a lot of people that have done this successfully, is they're very strategic about the kinds of people they're approaching. I often refer to the Malcolm Gladwell tipping point definition of a connector, somebody who's very connected within a market. And you can imagine it's like you're presiding over this huge lake full of fish who would be somebody's ideal target audience. And so if somebody is approaching you to do free work, they know that they're also accessing you in your entire market. And that's a really smart way to do free work. What's a really not smart way to be doing free work, knowing that there could be some pitfalls?
The first is to go to Craigslist and just look at these companies that are often very scammy, and they're saying like, "Why don't you do 25,000 hours of video editing for me, and maybe we'll put your name on our website?" And you know, your response is, "Go to hell." But what you want to do is like look at the credible people that you read every Saturday morning, or who do you read in your Google Reader, and get in their heads. So people reading me knew that I was struggling with video editing. I'm horrible at it. So they're like, "Oh, Ramit probably could benefit from that," or "Oh, he's so busy, he doesn't have time to catalog his media hits," or something like that. They got in my heads, and then they approached me saying, "Hey, not only do I want to do this for you, I've already put together a perspective page." So bad pitches would be, "Is there anything I can help you with?" A good pitch would be, "Hey, there are 3 things I think you need. In fact, I've already done a rough draft of them. What do you think?" And that is irresistible to someone who has a ton of stuff on their plate. What do you think?
Yeah, Tim Grahl did that with me. He redesigned my book page, and that's what he said. You know, he actually had done some work with you, and he said, and also with Guy Kawasaki and with Hugh MacLeod from Gaping Void, and he said, you know, I have some specific tweaks to make to your book page. What do you think about that? And you know, and he immediately mocked it up, and it just made me feel so comfortable. It felt very safe. And the strategy, again, which you notice as a theme, is often somebody is working with somebody like you or me, and then we introduce them to somebody else, which does really help, I think, with the trust factor. So that's one thing, I think, definitely being specific. The other thing from a consumer perspective is when somebody approaches me, I like to start with a small thing, which helps both me and them. So if they ended up hating me, not wanting to work with me, and if
how could they hate you, Pam? Come on.
It's very possible, but then it would be very easy just to get that task done and then move on. So I think also from the perspective of somebody who's wanting to pitch free services, you do not want to say, Ramit, I will do whatever you want me to do for the next 6 months, because then you could end up working full time, which would basically be exploitation. I know you would never exploit somebody like that, but some people would. And sometimes if you're not asking for money over a long period of time, people will take advantage of you, and you'll start to not feel so good about the strategy.
Absolutely. I think when you do free work, doing a trial period, like you said, is really smart. And also, it's okay to be clear up front that eventually you expect to be compensated. Yeah. But if you say, you know what, let's talk about that later. First, I just want to show you that I'm going to become indispensable to you. I'm going to completely blow your mind with how good I am. But I'm going to do it for free. There's no way someone can say no to that, because you're mitigating all their risks. So if you can do that, like you said, with a trial period, and then just completely dominating everyone else and working really hard, doing an amazing job, you will get paid not only what you're worth, you'll get paid more than you're worth, because somebody like you, Pam, will introduce them to a million other people who are in need of services too.
All right. So I just want to thank you, Ramit, for sharing this information. Sometimes we all get lost in the conversation reading Chris Anderson's book about free. Some people say you should do it. Some people say you shouldn't. But to me, the best way you can demonstrate your value is to demonstrate your value. So if you have the opportunity to really give a little piece of your best work to somebody, and that's somebody who's really connected, it can be a great way to then get in the door to pricing that absolutely fits the value of what it is that you're delivering.
I agree. Thanks for having me, Pam.
All right, and you can find Ramit at iwillteachyoutoberich.com. Thanks, Ramit.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.